seated. And we're back on the record. In 14-0-1432, Mr. Jones appears in custody. He's represented by Ms. Smith and Mr. Colvin. Mr. Rubenstein and Mr. Wade are both here for the people. I did want to mention one scheduling issue. I have another trial that was scheduled to start at 10 o'clock this morning, so at some point I need to take a short break to deal with resetting that matter, although there's currently a warrant out for the defendant's arrest in that case, so I don't think it'll take us very long. And then also, I think it's tomorrow when we'll be stopping at 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to remind you all of that. Anything else, Mr. Rubenstein?
Two things. I know Mr. Colvin has a record to make on an issue we're still working on. But before that, Ms. Watson has indicated to me that the video is not connecting. I'm wondering if the court can reset the system, and hopefully that will occur while Mr. Colvin is addressing his issue. And that's all I had before we brought the jury in.
Mr. Colvin?
Judge, first off, I'm asking the court if you would please do the normal media inquiry that's been happening.
Okay, if someone reminds me after I forget again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The second issue is a bit more complicated, and unfortunately I'm not quite as prepared to make my record as I should be, but I can make a preliminary record and then I may need to supplement it at a subsequent time. The short version of what is happening is there is an endorsed witness by the name of Tammy Slater. This is an individual the defense believes is necessary for the presentation of our defense. Her testimony relates to her sighting of a red car at a time that would be contradicted by other evidence in the case, including phone evidence. The defense believes this testimony is necessary because it highlights the inaccuracy of red car sightings if you believe that the phone evidence is accurate. Alternatively, it is certainly significant if you don't believe the phone records are accurate. This lady's out of state. We have properly pursued an out-of-state subpoena. I was informed late yesterday that this lady retained an attorney in the state where she's at. I don't recall off the top of my head which state it's Idaho. And apparently there was a hearing yesterday, and the attorney that she retained, well, I don't know exactly what happened in the hearing. What I do know is that the judge denied our request to have her brought here. We paid for the plane ticket. We'd done all those things that we needed to do pursuant to the out-of-state subpoena process. So at this time, Judge, we do not have a witness we believe is a necessary and indispensable witness for the full presentation of the defense case. I don't have a request of the court at this time because I have proffered to prosecution a couple of solutions that would resolve this issue.
Okay.
They're considering those, so this may ultimately be a moot point, but I felt it incumbent upon me to bring to the court's attention there is a potential significant witness issue. Ultimately, I think it would certainly involve due process rights under both federal and state constitutions of Mr. Jones to present a full defense, his right to subpoena witnesses, etc. Again, no request is being made of the court. This is purely information at this time. If at some point we're unable to work it out, I will make a more detailed offer of proof as to the steps we've undertaken. That's the part I'm not prepared for at this time. But I am told we are in compliance with the statute by my investigative staff.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before I invite our jury in?
No, sir.
Mr. Rubenstein?
If I can just ask, does the court, I can keep an eye on the time. I think I'll probably be finishing my direct right around the time that the court would want to break to address that other matter. So I can keep an eye on the time and just let you know when a good time to stop is, or if you wanted to let me know either way.
Okay. I was hoping between 10 and 10:15, for example. I think Miss Alexander might be appearing at that time.
Okay, I would think that would be around the time I would finish my direct, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, I think Mr. Hawley is the attorney from your office, but
Okay.
thanks. Anything else, or?
No, sir.
All right, I'll invite our jury in then. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mesa County District Court Division 10 is now in session again with the Honorable Brian J. Flynn presiding.
Thank you. Good morning. Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, our jury has joined us back in the courtroom. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And when we left off yesterday, Investigator Pachota, oh, I'm sorry, I need to ask you every morning if you've been exposed to any media coverage, and if any of our jurors have been exposed to any media coverage, if you'd raise your hand for me. All right, thank you, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people would have to continue with Investigator Pachota at this time.
Investigator Pachota, if you'll retake the stand, sir, you're still under oath from yesterday. Thank you. You can begin whenever you're ready, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank
Thanks.
you, sir. Investigators, did you bring your notes up with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yesterday we...
Judge, I apologize. Can we approach? I forgot something.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you're instructed as follows. Certain evidence may be admitted for a particular purpose only and for no other. You are about to hear evidence that the court is only allowing for a limited purpose. The testimony concerning Mr. Jones's involvement with other prostitutes may not be used by you as evidence of his bad character or to infer that the prior acts make it more likely that Mr. Jones committed the acts with which he is charged in this case. Under no circumstances may you use this evidence to assess Mr. Jones's guilt or innocence. Thank you. You can proceed, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Investigator, yesterday when we broke, we were talking about a visit to the gjsentinel.com website to look at a article and photograph associated with the Ford Focus burning. Do you recall
Yes.
that? Did you search that computer to determine how many other times on that computer the gjsentinel.com had been visited?
I did.
How many times in total had it been visited?
The life of the computer, there were 19.
19 times, okay. And then I think yesterday you testified that during the time of June 20th, 07 to July 15th of 07, it had only been visited one time, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that was the one time related to that vehicle, the Ford Focus?
That's correct. Yes.
So if he would have gone onto the computer to look up the fatal accident that occurred just down the road from his work, would that have shown up during your search?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk about some of the other keyword searches that you conducted. What was the dates that you first conducted these keyword searches?
They were during the initial investigation that concluded on October 1st of 2007.
Okay. During the course of that, did you search for other websites or other things associated with escorts?
Yes.
And were you familiar that during the search of the Bob Scott RV, there was a piece of paper that had the word hornymatches.com on it?
Yes.
Did you do a keyword search to see how many times the word horny matches showed up on his computer?
Yes.
How many times did it show up on his computer?
In excess of 68,000.
Now, as well, did you also search the word burning?
Yes.
How many times did burning show up on his computer?
I believe it was in excess of 22,000 times.
I'm sorry, 22,000?
22,000.
Okay. Now, could that have come up with like burning love, burning desire, other things like that, given the websites he was on?
Yes.
To put that in perspective, would the word massage or escort or blonde or things like that have shown up in those websites possibly as well?
Yes.
Okay, so you said in excess of 22,000 for the word burning. Did you search for massage?
Yes.
How many times did that word show up in his computer?
May I refer to my notes?
Would
for
that
the exact
refresh your
figure?
recollection?
It would refresh.
Please. And are you looking at your, the list you made in your report?
Yes, this is from my report.
Okay. Do you need further record on which, or do you know which list?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Which word, sir?
The word massage.
13 times.
How about escort?
16 times.
How about blonde?
652 times.
Okay. So to the extent burning may have shown up with other things, those other words well under 1,000. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also look to see about names that he had used associated, like aliases he had used associated with those dating websites?
I did.
Which names did you look for?
May I use my notes once again?
Would that refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is this the same page you were looking at before?
Yes, sir. Butch 3.
How many times did that show up?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the word you said.
I'm sorry, Butch, B-U-T-C-H, and the
Butch.
number
Okay,
3.
Thank you.
57 times.
And how about, did you also look for Big One 3367?
Yes, 1,262 times.
Okay. How about phone? Did you search the word phone?
I did.
How many times did that show up?
In excess of 195,000 times.
Okay. As part of your search, are you able to look at the dates and times of usage of the computer?
Yes.
Are you able to create charts and calendars that display that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with, when you're searching for this, what is the computer looking for to give you that information? Or what does the program that you're using look for to give you that information?
The program was, again, EnCase, like I talked about yesterday, and it's going off of the attributes to the file, like we talked about, the date created, modified, and accessed. There's actually a fourth one, deleted. So it's using those dates are the dates I use to create the charts.
Okay, so if any one of those three things occurred, created, modified, or accessed, then it would indicate some usage?
Correct, and it's an automated process that the computer will do. I just have to run a script, which is a small program within the main program.
And the script you're running, does that sort of define the terms of what you're looking for, the dates and such?
Correct.
Okay. May I approach, Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 906. And I previously shown this to Defense Counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that document, sir?
Yes, sir.
How do you recognize it?
I generated it. I created it.
Is this one of the script programs you ran to find usage of a computer?
Yes, this is.
Which computer is this of?
This is of the Toshiba laptop.
And what dates did you search for?
The first column is going to be June 11th of 2007. The last one is July 5th of 2007.
Is it part of your job to gather information that can either corroborate or dispute other information, such as witness statements?
Yes, it is.
And is one of the things you're looking for if somebody says, for example, I was home or I wasn't home or I was on the computer or not on the computer, you can use this type of information to corroborate those sorts of things?
It'll tell me if someone is on the computer or not during those times.
But the purpose, the investigatory purpose, can include what I just talked about?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 906.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
People's 906 is admitted. Thanks.
And Your Honor, I'd ask to publish it.
Any objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
All right, that's fine. You can proceed. Thank you.
Ms. Watson? Investigator, that's going to appear behind you. Do you have a little laser pointer in front of you?
I do not.
You do not. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
It may be in that little tray underneath the TV. Yes, thank you.
Great.
Ms. Watson, can I have you zoom in on that a little more? Thank you. Okay. Can you click your mouse on there, see if you can get, there you go, thank you. Okay, investigator, what are we looking at?
So this is from my report, and it starts, the dates are across the top. The date you'll see, for example, 6/11 of 07, that's going to be the Monday. So then you have to, in your head, go for the rest of that week. So it gives you the first day of that week. So the next one is the 18th. The next Monday is the 25th. And the next Monday is the 2nd of July, is how that is broken down.
Okay, so this is, if I'm looking at this correctly, about 3.5 weeks worth of time?
Yes,
And the first day being Monday, June 11th on the far left where it says M.
correct, right here.
Okay? And then on that column, there's a 0 through 23 on the vertical column on the far left. What is that?
Those are going to be the times in military time.
Okay, so the first top left corner box, 0 and M, am I correct in saying that that would be Monday between midnight and 1 in the morning?
Correct.
And then going down all the way until the bottom one there, M23 being Monday from 11 p.m. until midnight, turning into Tuesday.
11:59, correct.
To 11:59. Okay. Now, in that first column, there are some blank boxes and there are some boxes with numbers. Let's start with the first one in M6. There's the number 85, is that right?
Yes.
What does that mean, the 85?
So during the 6 o'clock hour, this computer, this Toshiba, had 85 files that were created, modified, accessed during that block of time.
Am I accurate in saying that you can't tell from what you do who was on the computer, just the computer access things?
Yeah, that is correct.
So you, in order to fully use this information, again, you have to add to it witness interviews, other things that you know are going on with the case.
I cannot tell you who was sitting at the keyboard.
Okay. But this would just be used in conjunction with other information?
Yes.
For your investigative purpose? Okay. So you said during the 6 o'clock hour, meaning anytime during the 6 o'clock hour?
Correct. This report does not break it down by minute. It's just that encompasses that entire hour block or 59-minute block.
In your expert opinion, 85 files being created, modified, or accessed, how long, what's the shortest amount of time that could take?
Well, that is a very difficult question. If you open a web page that has 15 little images on it, you could have 30 in one file. So it's really difficult to say how long someone would have to be on to hit that 85.
Fair to say 85 is not a huge number for the sorts of things you see.
It is not that large of a number.
Okay, so when you said if you open a web page, I'm imagining, for example, I have Yahoo email, and when you open it, there's a bunch of ads that show up and a bunch of different things. Are each one of those things a separate file?
Yes.
Okay. So, if I'm reading this chart right, somebody was on the computer on Monday, June 11th, at some point between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., and spread out over the course of those 3 hours to some extent.
That's correct.
Okay. Is one of the things you're asked to do to determine, for the investigators to determine patterns of usage and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that from your review of this, morning usage of the computer was fairly common?
Yes.
At least during the week. Looks like maybe less on the weekends?
Yes.
Okay. And then evening usage wasn't consistent throughout this time period. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you had other roles in this case. Is that right?
Yes.
Including you participated in the first interview with Mr. Jones.
Yes.
During that interview, Mr. Jones told you that he went out of town with his wife Elaine on Friday evening, and came back on Sunday morning.
Yes.
And then she was out of town and he was home from Sunday until, I believe it was Saturday of that next week.
Correct.
Which
Yes.
week on this chart is that referring to? That he was home alone?
So this here, the Monday that I'm pointing to would be the 25th. So 26th, 27th, 28th, that is going to be June 28th. And my understanding is that he was home, that they left Friday, and he returned Sunday, which would have been this area right in here.
Okay, and so just for the record, because we're recording this, you're pointing to the Sunday, the second S on the box that says 6/18/07 up top?
Correct.
6/18/2007 up top in the middle, and then the second S being the Sunday of that week, which would be June 24th?
Yes.
Okay, and then beginning then, he was home alone through the following week, which is the box that says 6/25/07 up top.
Yes.
Okay. Did you also then conduct a more detailed, condensed chart that shows that week that he was home alone and the next week?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, can I see it? I lose track. Got you. Thank you.
I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 907 for the record as we've shown this to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that, sir?
I do.
What is that?
This is another report generated by me showing a more zoomed-in time frame of the week starting the 25th of June and the week starting July 2nd.
And you generated that as well?
Yes, I generated this.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit People's Exhibit 907.
Do you have an objection, Mr.
No,
Colvin?
sir.
907 is admitted, thanks.
And I'd ask to publish it, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, sir.
Thank you. That's fine, you can proceed, thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I have you zoom in a little more, Ms. Watson? Thank you. Okay, investigator. So let's, just to give the jury some sense, without tracing through every day, but let's just give the jury some sense of the sort of corroboration type information you gather. On Tuesday of this week, can you show the jury where you're looking at for Tuesday of the week that Mr. Jones was home alone?
You're referring to June 26th?
Yes, sir.
That would be this Tuesday right here.
Okay. Were you aware, as part of the investigation, that Mr. Jones went to Walmart to purchase a phone on that day?
Yes.
And that was around 9:56 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to, from your chart, determine if that information is consistent with him not being home
Yes.
around those times? What are you looking at on that chart to determine that?
If you look at this section right here, so we have the entire 8 o'clock p.m. block and the 9 o'clock p.m. block, as there is nothing happening on this computer.
Okay. Now, the 10 o'clock block shows 494 files that were created, accessed, or modified. Is that right?
Yes.
And would that be consistent with if he came home, for example, at 10:15 and then got on the computer at 10:30? Could that be consistent with that?
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that it shows at 10 o'clock doesn't mean he started right at 10 o'clock. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. From this chart, are you able to determine whether or not he was home and on his computer? And actually, I'm going to ask you to look both at Exhibit 906 and 907, home and at his computer, every evening, the entire week that his wife was out of town. Was he on his computer every evening the entire week his wife was out of town?
With the exception of one,
What day was he not on his computer?
the 28th of June of 2007.
That was Thursday, the 28th?
Yes.
That was the date that Ms. Bergfeld the date Ms. Bergfeld went missing?
Yes.
Okay. Was he on his computer every morning that he was home alone?
Yes.
As part of your search, did you also look to see whether or not he was viewing adult pornographic images from that computer?
Yes.
How is that process done?
To break down that particular process, what I had to do was I had to look at all the images that are on that computer. And then I have to select the ones that contain pornography. And then I run the script against those bookmarked images to create a report, another chart.
Okay. Make sure I'm understanding. You actually look at every photograph and then do you somehow electronically mark it?
Correct. You have all the pictures up. There's a little box. You tap the box and it checks it, thus bookmarking it.
And then after you're done doing that, you can run a report to show visually like this when and what time and what day those images were viewed?
Yes, you run a report just of the bookmarked images.
Okay. All right, before I have you look at that, actually, I wanted to ask you, if you look at Wednesday, Wednesday at between 9 and 10, and this is Wednesday, 26th, 27th, June 27th, between 9 and 10, there are 3 dots. You see that?
In the morning, you're referring to?
Yes, between 9 and 10 in the morning.
Yes.
There are 3 dots. Why are there dots as opposed to numbers, is my first question.
The box that you see there only holds so many of those little dots, the little squares. Once it exceeds 50, I believe, then it turns into a number. So you'll see 3 dots, meaning just 3 files had attributes that changed during that hour block.
When you have a very small number of files accessed, modified, or changed, does that, in your opinion, indicate that somebody's at the computer using it?
No.
What, in your opinion, is going on to cause that?
That could be a virus scan, running a quick scan. That could be a screensaver. That could be any number of non-user generated attribute changes.
Okay, so I think you said going on a normal web page could be as many as 15 on one web page. So in your opinion, that particular place where it shows 3 probably was not somebody sitting at the computer using it?
That's true.
Okay. Does that happen if you just leave your computer kind of on in sleep mode or something like that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now let's get back to talking about your search of the adult pornographic images. Which week did you search for that on? Was it the same time frame as what we're looking at here?
I believe it is the same time frame as People's Exhibit 907.
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 908,
Thank you.
and I've shown this to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
It is a 2-week chart that depict only adult pornographic images.
Okay, and this is the chart you said that you manually went on and electronically bookmarked them and then ran this report?
Yes.
Okay. And is this for those same 2 weeks as you are seeing on there now, June 25th through July 8th?
The same 2 weeks.
Same 2 as Exhibit 907?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 908.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
Are you going to be asking to publish it?
Yes, sir.
Any objection to publishing?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. 908 is admitted. You're free to publish. Thank you.
Ms. Watson? Is that Exhibit 908 that we're looking at, sir?
That is.
Okay. Now, it's going to be hard to fit the whole thing in there, so Ms. Watson, maybe if I could have you just get rid of the, oh, never mind. Thank you. All right. So, same question I had for you before. Sometimes there are numbers, like Tuesday morning, looks like between midnight and 12:59, just becoming Tuesday, there's the number 67.
Yes.
Similarly, on Thursday morning, there's the number 56, but in other places there are boxes. What is
Yes.
the reason for that?
The reason for that is there were more than 50 little boxes to fit in the big block, so you have a number in there.
Okay. Are you able to tell from this chart whether or not the person using the laptop computer, am I correct, this is the same week that Miss Jones was out of town?
Yes.
Are you able to tell from looking at this chart that the person using this laptop computer was looking at adult pornographic images every morning that Miss Jones was out of town?
Yes.
What about every evening?
With the exception of one evening,
Which
Thursday, the 28th.
Okay. And that's consistent with your previous chart that showed no usage of the computer at all on that evening?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury what is a web artifact?
When you go onto a web page, what Microsoft will do is it'll take that page and bring it into the temporary internet files. That helps it reload that same page quicker the next time you go back to it. When it downloads that data into those files, those become web artifacts. So they're parts of a web page, and that's the easiest way I can explain it, is they're just fragments of a web page.
When you, is it correct to say imaged? Is that a, imaged this hard drive? Is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay, when you imaged this hard drive and then conducted the forensic search of the image of the hard drive, did your system gather web artifacts of the types of things that were accessed during these particular dates?
Yes, because it gathers everything on that hard drive.
And you actually searched and looked at these particular dates as well?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'm going to hand you what's marked People's Exhibit 909 and 910. I'm going to previously show this to the defense counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize those?
I do.
What are they?
They are web artifacts.
For what dates?
This particular one you're showing me is for June 27th of '07.
Okay, and when you say this particular one, I've handed you two. Can I have you look at both 909 and 910?
Yes.
Are they both for that date?
Yes.
Okay, and June 27th, 2007, that's one of the dates listed. That's on the Wednesday of the first week of Exhibit 908 and 907, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibits 908, excuse me, 909 and 910.
Any objection?
No, sir. No objection to it being published.
Published. All right, thank you. 909 and 910 are both admitted. You're free to publish. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Watson, if I could have you put up 909. And while she's doing that, investigator, you mentioned that you searched the term hornymatches.com and it came up in excess of 68,000 times. If it showed up multiple times on one page, would it count multiple times?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are we looking at Exhibit 909 right now?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Watson, if I could have you zoom in on just any part of the right column. Maybe zoom in a little more than that. Okay, so we are now looking at Exhibit 909, sort of is zoomed in of the most of the upper portion of the right column. Is that correct?
Yes.
What are the things on the right?
This would appear to be in essence, an email type site where you can receive messages, emails. So what you are looking at there are these messages through this website. They're links, they're a multitude of different things that are under whatever account this came from.
Okay, so you previously talked about there being adult pornographic images. Would this count?
If you notice the X's in the gray boxes, which are right here, if they were pictures that were nude images, then yes, they would be part of the adult pornography.
Okay, and so you were the one that determined whether or not you clicked to check the box for the adult.
I would have looked at it through the gallery view. a different view than what we're looking at here.
Okay, but if an adult pornographic image showed up as one of those, you might have checked that.
Yes.
Okay. If it was just a photo of somebody's face or a photo of somebody clothed, then you would not have checked it, is that correct?
I would not have.
Okay. So, on these pages, if there was not images, this is the sort of thing that would have resulted in, let's see, this is June 27th at 23:41, so 11:41 p.m. on Wednesday evening.
Yes.
So if you look at Exhibit 907, Ms. Watson, if I could bring up 907. So Wednesday evening, so that's where it says 1,848 images. That page that we just looked at would be some of those.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. If I could have you go to Exhibit 910, please, Ms. Watson. And zoom in as well. Investigator, am I accurate in stating that it's much easier to see on the electronic version what we're looking at than in the paper copy you have in front of you?
It is.
Okay. Ms. Watson, could you zoom in a little more? Okay. What is this?
This, if you look at the string at the very top, this is a temporary internet file pulling in data from a Hotmail account. And these are the messages. So you have on this who they're from and when they came in, the size of the message, and the subject line of that message.
And there's something that says plentyoffish.com several times.
Yes.
And then what does it say next to it?
For the very top one, it says Butch 3, new matches for June 18th.
Okay. Ms. Watson, can you scroll down? Since it's kind of difficult to read it on the paper version, I'm wondering if you could just go through the electronic and just read what each of them say as you go down the next to plentyoffish.com. Please.
Starting at the top?
Well, yeah, I think you just read the top one, but the next.
The next one is Butch 3, new matches for June 11th.
Okay, so this is sort of counting backwards by date?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't know that it's necessary to go through all of them. This also was accessed around that same time period on June 27th with around 11:41 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Now, where do you find this sort of temporary internet file? Where were these files located on the computer?
If you scroll to the very top of that page,
Ms. Watson, can you scroll to the top of that page?
it will show you the string of where that file, this particular file, is located.
Can you explain what information you're able to gather from that string?
Yes. So this fell into, this is, the system at the time that was installed was Windows XP. So it goes under Documents and Settings. Then it has the username of whose account you're in. So it'd be Ralph Jones. And then from there it breaks it down to Local Settings, Temporary Internet Files. The next folder is that Content, i.e. Internet Explorer 5. Then you see the next folder, which starts off with 3, Adam, Zebra, Edward. That's the folder. And then the actual HTML, the file itself, is the hotmail2.html.
All right, so make sure I'm understanding. The Lester Jones and the Toshiba laptop, those are things you called it, that you entered into this to identify which case and which computer?
Yes, I personally entered the case name and the computer that start that string.
And then beginning at the C, that's what the computer started assigning, is that correct?
Yes.
And then where it says Ralph Jones, how did that happen?
That the computer knows that this temporary internet folder fell under that user because it's logged in as that user.
Okay, so the computer knows which profile?
Profile, user account, Windows
User
account.
Thank you. User account you're signed in on, and it puts temporary internet files into that user account's folder.
Yes.
Okay. Did you also, as part of your investigation, search a computer that was used by Paige Bergfeld?
Yes.
When did you do that?
I believe it was turned over to us by her father, Frank Bergfeld, on July 6th of 2007. And then the investigation into those two computers concluded on October 18th of 2007.
What were the purposes that you were looking at her computer?
Looking for information regarding this case, individuals. It was pretty open.
Okay. Associations, things like that.
Friends, contacts.
Were you able to determine whether or not Miss Bergfeld's computer was used for her Models, Inc. business?
The way you're asking that, it's hard to answer.
Okay, let me ask you more specifically.
Thank you.
Did she use it for, like, keeping the books of Models, Inc.?
She did not.
Did she use it for her contacts or clients?
No.
What uses associated with Models, Inc. did she have on that computer?
Web fragments, like she checked her website.
Okay. Did she also create some ads
Yes.
with that? Possibly newspaper, possibly website type advertising?
I don't know what form they were for, but yes.
Okay. What about her Pampered Chef business? Did she keep books for Pampered Chef on the computer?
Yes.
And what about contacts?
Yes.
Did you at some point search her computer for names such as Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Did the name Lester show up anywhere on her computer?
Not that I recall without using my notes.
Okay. At least not associated with this particular Lester Jones.
There was no link between her and Mr. Lester Jones here in court.
Did you look for the word Jones as well for that same thing?
Yes.
Same result?
Yes.
How about George Coraluzzo?
Yes.
Both the name George and the name Coraluzzo?
Correct. They're separate keyword searches.
How about Bob Scott?
Yes.
How about Linderholm?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you said yes to searching with any result?
Nothing related to what we're here for.
Nothing George Coraluzzo related to what we're here for? Nothing
Correct.
Lester Jones related to what we're here for?
Correct.
Nothing Bob Scott related to what we're here for?
Correct.
Did you also check Miss Linderholm?
Yes.
And did you find anything related to Miss Linderholm related to this?
I believe I found 2 images of her on the computer.
Okay. Other than that, nothing related to what we're here for?
No.
Okay. Now, you also, in addition to searching Mr. Jones' laptop, you also searched the Dell tower, is that right?
Yes.
Are you familiar, as part of your investigation and part of your interview with Mr. Jones, are you familiar with the idea that Elaine Jones had reported that she remembered him leaving Sunday night, and one of the reasons she remembered that is because she was on her computer?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's marked People's Exhibit 911.
Okay.
Can I show this to defense counsel?
Thank you.
Do you recognize Exhibit 911, sir?
I do.
What is that?
It is another chart, a timeline chart that I created.
Of what computer?
The Dell tower.
Okay, and what are the dates of this chart?
June 25th through July 19th of 2007.
Okay. Similar question, does that chart reflect the week that Mr. Jones was home alone, as well as the Saturday Miss Jones returned and Sunday that the car fire was reported?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 911 and ask to publish it.
No objection and no objection to publishing.
All right, thank you. 911 is admitted, and you're free to publish. Thank you.
Ms. Watson? Ms. Watson, can I have you zoom in a little, please? Okay, investigator, so you're aware from the investigation that Mr. Jones reported to you that his wife was out of town roughly the week leading up to July 1st, prior to July 1st, correct?
Yes.
Okay, can you show the jury where that week is on this chart?
It's going to be this first section right here is the week of the 25th.
Okay. Is it fair to say that this computer is used much less than the other computer during that week?
Yes, it is.
And if I'm reading your chart correctly, it looks like Wednesday was possibly actual use,
Yes.
and then there's a very small amount of use on Thursday morning. Looks like 1 file and 3 files. In your opinion, is that actual use, or is that what you described before as like automatic update sort of things?
It's system use.
System use, okay. Similarly, Friday, there's a tiny bit of use, looks like 2 files, same thing?
System use.
Okay. When you get to Sunday of the end of that first box, at between the hours of 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock p.m., it says 1,746. Is that the hour during which you're familiar that Miss Jones reported she recalls Mr. Jones leaving the
Yes.
house? And she reported that she knew that because she was on her computer at that time?
Yes.
Is what you're looking at consistent with that information?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Yes, did you need to explain that further?
No, the court wanted to know when it was 10.
Thank you. Judge, I have no further questions for the witness at this time. I know you had another issue to address.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to go back to the jury room for just a few moments. I have another case I have to handle just briefly, and so we'll be right back with you. Please remember the instructions for all the recesses. Thank you. Please rise for our jury. For the record, our jury's left the courtroom. We'll just be in a short recess. Thank you.
Thank you.